Last topic, and then we'll bid you adieu. The Pittsburgh Pirates, who have had a particularly hot start, they look. I'm buying. I've decided I'm buying, especially on the pitching side. They did blow it in pretty devastating fashion yesterday in a matinee game against the Tigers, up 3-1 in the ninth, with all-star closer DAVID BEDNAR on the hill, and he blew the save, his third blown save of the young season. Last year, he did not blow his third save until August. Okay, it is April 10th. Now, that is definitely an area of concern because the Pirates need to get Bednar right, and it wasn't just that he blew the save. He looked frazzled and out of sorts. It is also worth mentioning that Bednar is a Pittsburgh area guy. He is beloved in that fan base. He is like sneaky, like recognizable in the city. Everyone knows someone who like grew up with DAVID Bednar's like babysitter or something, whatever.
Just remember, they traded for him, right? This wasn't a situation where they drafted the hometown kid. For them to trade for him, from San Diego, and for him to turn into one of the best closers in baseball, which is what he's been for the last few years, he has been unflappable. Now, for Pirates teams that haven't been very good, so we haven't necessarily noticed, but he's been a two-time All-Star. Right. He led the NL in saves last year. He's been everything you could possibly hope for. The DAVID BEDNAR story has been outstanding. He dealt with some injuries this spring, clearly has not looked right, already, as you mentioned, already blowing a few saves. And after what happened yesterday, he was getting some boos from Pirates fans. Had a lot of boo discourse on here, right? My first instinct, we're always going to be, pretty much always going to be anti-boo, but, this is
unless you did crimes. You did crimes.
I know, thank you. I know you always say that. You're like, yes,
crimes,
people that did crimes. Yep.
Crimes and adultery. You can boo.
Sure. But I will say that, and this is crazy, and we're going to get to why we want to talk about this, which is his teammate defending him. To me, it is also a sign of like the Pirates fans are they're now like, we're in first place. Like, we got to hold our players accountable. We got to we have a standard now here in Pittsburgh.
We're
trying to win, which
we boo, right?
Like, this matters, right? Exactly. And I was like, okay, like that's a little bit different than like the the Chris Bryant booing that we talked about recently. But for DAVID BEDNAR, of all people, to be the one that you're directing your ire at, as we're going to talk about here, is ridiculous. Like, come on, people.
I think Phillies fans proved last year, Jordan, booing doesn't work, cheering does. And I think like DAVID BEDNAR is not the guy to boo. Like, he was someone who was holding your hand through the darkness, and it's like not his fault. Like, he wasn't right in spring, and he's going to be okay. Like, I have faith in DAVID BEDNAR. So what happens is in the post-game interview in the clubhouse where, all the media gather around Bednar, hey, what went wrong tonight? Rowdy Tellez, the first baseman for the Pirates, who they signed over the winter, basically like hops into the scrum, and before Bednar can say anything, says, like, backs Bednar up and says, we love this guy. He's going to be okay. I thought what the fans did today was unacceptable. We can't be booing this guy. He's a Pittsburgh icon, a Pittsburgh legend. And you can like see Bednar is like almost tearing up, right? Like he's like clearly getting emotional.
Yeah.
And it was a very rare and unique thing. That's the type of thing you usually will get someone saying to a reporter off the record or off of camera or like when asked about it. But for Tellez to unprompted hop in and defend his teammate, that's the type of thing that like, I cannot tell you how far that goes in the room. How much respect that gives someone like Tellez, how much that is going to be appreciated by Bednar. Because Bednar can't go out and say, I didn't like that the fans booed me, right? Mm-hmm. Then he's going to get criticized for that. But for Tellez to go out and say it, I thought was just incredibly tactful and empathetic and thoughtful and rare. And I think that's kind of why it stuck out and stood out with me.
And that's Tellez who, just got there, right? And someone who has already understood, what DAVID BEDNAR means to Pittsburgh. And listen, I mean, this is just, I say this a million times every season. Closing is closing. The best closers in the world are going to poop their pants, a few times a year. And sometimes that all happens in 1 week. and what'll happen now is he'll probably rattle off 10 saves in a row, without allowing a base runner, because that's what happens with even the best closers. We're already dealing with small samples in the early going here. That is the nature of assessing relief pitching. So it's unfortunate, but hey, I love DAVID BEDNAR too, and I hope that he can get back. It'll be cool when he kind of gets back out there and closes down a game, because the Pirates, let me just leave you on this, Jake. This is how we'll end the show. Just being around the Reds and Brewers, yesterday. I'll be there again today. The
Ooh,
NL
the
Central.
door is open, baby.
Well, okay, yes, that's kind of what I'm getting at, but just like I truly believe that this NL Central is just about the hardest to project from a top to bottom division that I can really remember. And the Pirates' hot start is only exacerbating that. It is a situation where I can make legitimate arguments for every team to finish first and last. I can't remember anything quite like this. And sure, you could say, oh, the Central's always been mid and it's always been a toss, whatever. Like that's been true. Of course, this division has trended in that way, but this is going to be a really fascinating year in that division. It ain't always going to be pretty, but I can't wait to see where it goes.